Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about some famous American flutists. If you haven't seen the previous two videos in this series, go check those out. I'll link them in the cards and in the description. Like those two videos, I'm going to go through kind of the old guard, the older generation of famous players. It's really important for us to know our history and know where we came from. And while I will be covering more modern players in upcoming videos, these people are incredibly important to know about. They helped build the players that we look up to now. The first person I'm going to talk about is William Kincaid. He was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1895, and he died in 1967. He studied simultaneously at Columbia University and the Institute of Musical Art. The Institute of Musical Art would later become the Juilliard School. And his teacher was Julius Baker. If you don't know who Baker is, I cover him in the French video, so go check that out. He played with the New York Symphony, and in 1921 he was offered the principal position of the Philadelphia Orchestra. He played with Philadelphia until 1960. At the time, they had a mandatory retirement age of 65, so he was forced into retirement. Obviously, those rules have changed today. He taught at Curtis, and he's most well known for his very close relationship with Marcel Tabuteau. Tabuteau was an oboist and an incredible pedagogue. If you don't know who he is, go look him up. He's an incredibly important figure in orchestral playing and orchestral teaching, and him and Kincaid had a relationship where they taught together. A lot of the flutists who studied at Curtis with Kincaid also worked with Tabuteau, and that partnership is part of what created the American school of flute playing as well as just orchestral playing. Along those lines, Kincaid is considered the grandfather of the American school. He really established the system that most of us study in now. Most people who teach at universities are a descendant of Kincaid or one of the next two people I'm going to talk about. So we can't really talk about the American flutists without talking about Julius Baker. He was born in Cleveland, which is my hometown, in 1915, and he died in 2003. He studied at Eastman and also Curtis, and he is one of the products of the Kincaid-Tabuteau relationship. He was second flute in Cleveland and won principal for the New York Phil. He played there for most of his life. He taught at Curtis, he taught at Carnegie Mellon, and most importantly, he taught at Juilliard. He has an incredible lineage of students. Honestly, anyone who teaches at a major university has probably studied with Julius Baker at some point, and he is really one of the biggest figures in American flute teaching. He really established what American playing is, and no one's really done anything similar since then. The other person who's really important in the kind of creation of American flute playing is Robert Willoughby. Out of the three, Baker, Kincaid, and Willoughby, he's probably the least known, but he is someone that is really, really important to American flute playing. He was born in 1921 in Grundy Center, Iowa, and he died about 2 months ago in 2018. He studied at Eastman and the New England Conservatory, and he was the assistant principal of Cleveland, as well as teaching at Oberlin and Peabody. He really was an incredible teacher. He didn't have much of a legacy as a player, but he had, again, a huge host of students who really were shaped by him, and he has created a lot of very, very important players along with Baker and Kincaid. The next person we're going to talk about is Dario Dwyer. She was born in 1922 in Streator, Illinois, and she's probably someone you've never heard of, but you should have. She attended Interlochen for high school, because that shows you how old Interlochen is, and also attended Eastman. In 1952, she was named Principal Flute of Boston, making her the first female flutist to ever hold a principal in a major orchestra. And she was actually one of 2 women at the time to be a principal of a major orchestra. So she's incredibly important for women in music and just kind of a trailblazer in terms of women holding major roles in orchestras. So the next person we're going to talk about is Paula Robeson. You probably know that name. She was born in 1941, and she's still alive today. She studied at USC, and she also studied with Baker at Juilliard. She also, like many other people we've covered in these videos, went and studied with Moïse. In 1961, she first played Villiers with an orchestra with the New York Phil. Those of you who study flute probably have heard her interpretation of Villiers. She is probably the best person in the world at it, and that's one of the things that gave her her career, was that piece. She has an incredibly big solo and orchestral career. She's played with most major orchestras. She's also known for her teaching position at the New England Conservatory. She started there in 1973, and you can still study with her today. She still teaches there. The last person we're going to cover, and someone that you really just have to know as an American flutist, is Jeannie Baxtresser. She was born in 1947 in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and is also still alive today. She attended Interlochen, and she actually made her orchestral debut at 14. She then went on to study at Juilliard with Baker. There's a big theme here. In 1969, in her final year at Juilliard, she won the principal position of the Montreal Symphony, and in 1976, she won the principal of the Toronto Symphony. In 1981, she became the first female principal flutist of the New York Phil, and while at the New York Phil, she taught at Juilliard and the Manhattan School of Music. In 1988, she retired from the New York Phil to focus on teaching full-time, and that's when she started her position at Carnegie Mellon. She still teaches there. She no longer teaches at Juilliard or MSM, but she is really an incredibly important teacher, as well as having written the Bible on orchestral excerpt playing. Those of you who are in music school know what book I'm talking about, but she published a series of orchestral excerpt books that every flutist in the world basically uses. It covers almost every major orchestral excerpt and gives feedback about how to play them, and also comes with a CD so that you can play it with piano accompaniment, so you kind of get the idea of what the orchestra is doing. Jeannie Baxtresser is someone that you should know. And if you haven't heard her play and if you haven't heard her teach, go find clips of her on YouTube because she's incredible. So yeah, those are the big flutists that I want to cover in this video. Obviously, there's tons of people that I can't talk about in these videos. Please let me know if there's someone that you want me to specifically cover or you think I missed someone. As always, if you like this video, give it a like. If you're new here, subscribe. If you want to support me more, check out my Patreon, and I will see you guys on Thursday.